Bettor Sports Betting is your home for picks, props, and futures for tonight's action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show here on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm, YouTube, Twitter, the BSN app, wherever you're watching. We're glad that you've joined us here. I got Fensty filling in again with me. He was on Monday's show. We hit a few bets, and he's back here for Wednesday. What's up, Fensty?
Hey, Servo, if I went 0 for life, you probably wouldn't see me on the show with you again. So thank goodness that Eflin hit that strikeout prop, bro.
Yeah, Eflin, and I had Paxton hitting my strikeout prop.
Huge, man. 7.5? That's big, man. You have more guts than I do with those 7.5s, man. I think that sometimes you got to take away the number and just know if you think a pitcher is just going to crush it, forget the number and you bet the over. But 7.5, man, I just see that and I immediately go, ugh.
Yeah. And in that game, I had the Red Sox Rays money line. And, of course, the Red Sox lost, but Paxton hit his strikeout prop, and the Rays lost to the A's. What is happening in baseball right now? But
I was sweating. There was, no runs being scored inning after inning after inning. And all of a sudden, here come the A's that are scoring the runs because, remember, in that game as well, I had the Rays team total. And all of a sudden, midway through the game, Tampa starts scoring a little bit. They had a chance to go over. I believe it was at 5.5. Had a chance to go over late in the game. A couple of runners on. Could not come through, though. But the A's, it was the A's that were scoring the runs a little bit more early on.
Yeah, and they won again last night. And they're playing again here tonight. So we'll see if we got any picks from that game or if we're just staying away. We got a big show for you guys here today. Appreciate you all joining in here. We got David Barnett from the Tour Junkies Golf Guys here on Bettor Sports Network and on Twitter. I'm sure you guys have seen their work there, but David Barnett's going to be joining us in about 15 minutes here, so definitely stay tuned. We got some U.S. Open preview picks, predictions from him, and we'll see if me and Fensty have a couple of our own, but I'll probably be leaning on David for that because he's the guy with all the knowledge about the U.S. Open, so we'll definitely be touching on that and give you guys some picks for that because that's the big next sports event. And we, of course, have plenty of baseball bets, MLB player props that we'll be diving into for me and Fensty. But we got to start with the big news in sports is the Vegas Golden Knights winning the Stanley Cup last night. And if you tuned in yesterday to the show, we had Andrew Dewhurst from Fantasy Alarm giving some of his picks and leans out. He nailed the Vegas Golden Knights on the puck line. You know, the money line was like minus 190 at the start of that game. But the puck line was pretty good juice there, plus 145 I got it at. And I'm glad I followed his advice because that was a convincing win to win the Stanley Cup. And also, Andrew almost hit on Mark Stone being the last goal scorer. He ended up having a hat trick in the game. So if you took his anytime goal scorer odds, that hit for sure. But the last goal scorer was plus 1,300 yesterday. And he was he had a goal in the last 4 minutes of the game. And then someone else from the Golden Knights scored in the last minute to kind of shoot that bet in the butt there. But Andrew Dewhurst was on point there. So yeah, every guest we're bringing on has been on fire with these. But yeah, I mean, reactions to last night. I mean, crazy. Vegas in what, their fourth year as a club or winning the title.
Yeah, fifth year. I mean, remember in their first year, they were battling the Caps, and you and I were in a radio studio right in the heart of DC. Regarding that there, as Heavy T, Tyler Soto, our producer, corrects us, 6th year for them. But in that first year, they went to the Cup and lost. It does, man. It does. I remember, though, when we were covering it, though, for other shows and how crazy it was and how it was. I mean, the Verizon Center, now Capital One Arena, about a mile away from us where we were in D.C., things going crazy there. Vegas couldn't get it done against the Capitals. This time they do. I will say this. First few minutes of the game, I thought it was going to be a lot of Florida aggressiveness. That's what I was seeing. You were seeing when it came to the shots in the first few minutes that Florida was out shooting them. But then all of a sudden, Vegas turned it up about 2 notches. And for about the rest of the 93% of the game, they were in Florida's zone. And even though Florida was able to cut that 2-0 deficit down early in the second period, as soon as they did that, here comes Vegas turning it up a notch. And that's why I thought Vegas had a good chance. There was a lot of attention on, of course, Boston going into the playoffs. And then once we hit the playoffs, it's Florida. Can they do it? The same thing with the NBA. But man, Servo, they just destroyed Florida. And it just shows like we all want to believe in that Cinderella run to be completed, but you could still have an incredible run like the Florida Panthers and Miami Heat did without finishing the job.
Yeah, and Vegas just, as you mentioned, they just put it on them in that, especially in like the second, third periods. It was just like, all right, now it's the Vegas' time here at home. And you, by the way, if you follow, the sports betting industry, fantasy sports, you probably back in March would have heard about the FSGA sports betting draft, futures draft that they had. And Fensty was a part of that. What are these two picks that you got that cashed last night and it cashed earlier in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, it's a snake draft where you're drafting futures props. It's very original that the FSGA does. And in this draft, that also, by the way, Howard Bender and Adam Ronis, they've won this league before. They have a team together. On my team, and I've been in this for the last few years, I actually picked Vegas to win the West and win the Cup. And it gave me an incredible return. I mean, you could bet on anything from the golf tournaments to the horse races and Triple Crown to college basketball, men's and women's, to baseball futures, which I've got a few that are live there. But having that, man, definitely will put me in contention because this goes through October when the World Series ends. So that'll start to put me in contention to potentially winning that FSGA ring.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, you hit on the Golden Knights to win the West, and then
they were the best out West, man. That's what it was. And that's really, I mean, I looked at the balance that they had on both sides. I mean, they didn't allow too many goals up during the regular season. And there was a lot of focus on the Oilers. There was a ton of focus on Dallas as well. And of course, the Avalanche. But then I'm sitting there thinking, well, what's wrong with this Vegas team? Like, why aren't they getting the love? And they were sitting out there, and I believe they were plus 1,300 that I got them at to win the Cup. So, yeah, man, was very happy and pumped to hit on that.
Yeah, the Avalanche went in the first round of that, plus 650. But, yeah, you took the Golden Knights in round 4 to win.
And everyone was on Boston, Servo. Everybody. I mean, Boston, it just seemed like halfway through the season that it was done. It was finished. Give them the Cup. And then Florida comes along and beats them.
Yeah, I started to look at that because when the playoffs started, I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, Boston just had this crazy season, historic season, but their odds to win the Stanley Cup were not like as you would expect from like a dominant team. It was more wide open in terms of the future odds there. And that's what I kind of was like, all right, I was thinking about betting the Bruins there, but then I kind of backed off because, I'm seeing these odds where Vegas knows, and Vegas obviously knew that Vegas would win it. So, the plus 1,300 is nice there. I'm not sure what it was before the playoffs started, but that was back in March, mid-season. And I'm sure before the season, there's even better odds there. So congrats if you cashed bets like that, like Fensty did on the Golden Knights winning the whole thing. Let's get to some MLB best bets before we talk some U.S. Open with David Barnett. We got a full slate of games today, some games going on currently in the afternoon slate here for Major League Baseball. But we got tons of games tonight. So what do you got for your top pick tonight?
My top pick, this was a tough choice here, but it's actually Daniel Lynch allowing over 5.5 hits, which he has in his last 2 games. And the Reds, who he's taken on tonight, very good at hitting lefties. And it's one of those things where you're thinking, okay, he's letting up a decent amount of hits, though, but is he going to be in the game long enough? Last few starts and the few that we've seen, he's gone at least 5 innings in all 3 of those previous starts there, allowing 5 hits in all 3 of those starts at least. And last 2, it's been 6 and 8. And with the way the Reds are playing and hitting lately, I mean, I'm thinking with them, with the amount of hits that they're getting, plus the matchup against the lefty here, that they're going to be able to get 6 hits or more off this guy tonight.
Yeah, I like that. I've been on the Reds for, on Monday's show with you, I took their team total over and a hit. And yesterday's show, I went back to the team total over and a hit. And I think we might have a pick on the Reds coming up a little bit later because fading the Royals in general, but fading Daniel Lynch here is a good bet. So, yeah, I can get on board with that back in the Reds for sure. I'm going with the Nationals-Astros game. I'm going with the Nationals team total over 2.5 at minus 130 on FanDuel. And then just a separate bet, but you can parlay if you want. Framber Valdez under 6.5 Ks, minus 138 on FanDuel as well. Yesterday I backed the Astros on the run line and it cashed, but here I'm switching gears because Valdez is a guy I've been looking to fade in the right spots. His 3.90 expected ERA is so much higher and a lot worse than his 2.36 ERA on the season. And just some underlying metrics for him just shows that he's a negative regression candidate. And again, I've been looking to fade him in the right spots here. Valdez is, career high in barrel rate and a lot of advanced stats. Hard hit rate, average exit velocity is like in the bottom tier of MLB pitchers this year. His stats obviously on the surface are impressive. He's been rolling out some great outings, but the Nats are actually a very tough matchup on lefties. They're a top 5 offense in terms of WOBA and other stats against left-handed pitchers this year, and a very low 16.8% strikeout rate, league low actually against lefties. And over the last 2 weeks, it's been even lower at 13% against left-handers. So obviously Valdez, he's gone over 6.5 strikeouts, by the way, in 8 of his 13 starts, but I'm still taking the under here because this is literally the worst matchup that he's faced all year in terms of strikeouts. And as I mentioned, all those underlying stats, advanced metrics show Valdez could be in for a bad outing or two. And so I think the Nats here, that 2.5 run total is really low for any team. And the Nats are, a feisty team. They're averaging almost 4 runs per game over the last 10 games. It kind of is a sneaky offense. Not a pushover team like we saw like last year and a couple years past. I mean, this is actually a decent offense. And I think that Valdez can struggle a little bit.
Yep. I mean, he's gone under it in 2 of his last 3. I was trying to remember if I was on his outs prop last game. I believe I was on his Ks, which was at 5.5 against the Blue Jays. And he was sitting there. And then all of a sudden, I'm looking at the stat line now, all coming back to memory. The walks too, which in 2 of his last 3 starts, he's also walked a few batters as well. So you know what that means, Servo? 3 walks in 2 of his last 3 starts here could up that pitch count a little bit and could take him out. And you're right. There, when it comes to the Nationals, they're a very pesky team, and you can't just underrate them like that. So I like that you've got kind of 2 props each going into each other, a little domino effect there. That team total just so dang low with the Nats at 2.5.
Yeah, 2.5, and I think that was on FanDuel, but you can maybe chop around and get some a little bit better odds if possible. But I think they're scoring. I mean, even if it's at 3 or 3.5, I still think they can get to 4 runs here. I looked at their money line because it's juicy, like a lot of, plus 200, plus 211 I was seeing. But I'm just sticking to the team total, because I don't trust the Nats pitching against the Astros here. So I'm just sticking to that. By the way, our producer, Tyler Soto, is telling us in chat here that the Astros announced just before on the live here, Lance McCullers is out for the year officially. Underwent surgery on his flexor tendon, I'm seeing, and to remove a bone spur. So that's interesting. If you were talking about futures bets, if you had a future on the Astros, right now they're plus 750 to win the World Series, the 4th best odds behind the Braves, Rays, and Dodgers. But this definitely impacts them. I mean, they haven't had like the dominant starting pitching of years past, kind of making do with guys and having guys like Brandon Belock filling in and stuff like that. So this is kind of a big deal for your Astros futures.
Yeah, I mean, look at who they're competing with then in their division here. The all-powerful hitting Rangers, too.
Right.
So, I mean, I think a lot of the focus, Servo, was on, of course, the Angels, but also the Mariners, too. And the Mariners are 500 ball club right now. So I thought, if anything, it would be them two kind of neck and neck at this point. But it's been the Rangers out in front with their 41 wins.
Yeah, the Rangers are killing it. They are. Interestingly, they're worse odds to win the World Series at plus 1,600 behind the Rays and the Astros, and at least in the American League there, and even the Yankees are ahead of them. Of course, the Yankees are ahead of them, but yeah, interesting news there, and not so much affecting Valdez here, but interesting to see who they call up, and what the Astros might be a team to fade at times, just with one less talented starting pitcher in their rotation. So something to keep in mind there. Let's shift gears here and talk U.S. Open, golf bets and betting picks. We got David Barnett from the Tour Junkies joining us here. He is a co-host on the Tour Junkies podcast, the Tour Junkies show on Bettor Sports Network that you guys have seen. running the Twitter handle with Pat Perry there as his co-host. What's up, David? Appreciate you joining us here.
What up, Dan? Fancy? Thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate it. It's a good week.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, David. It's good to see you again.
So we've worked with you a bunch as on the other side of the glass as producers with you when you're on the Sirius XM's airways, but awesome to be here with you, co-hosting with you.
Yeah, for sure, huh? It all comes back around at some point, right? We're still we've been doing this 8 years. So yeah, we've been around a little bit.
Well, hey, but you know what? It's a great time to be around because we got this major coming up here. So I got to ask you, with the Open being at LA Country Club, I mean, why don't you describe what this course layout is and maybe which style of golfers benefit the most from this course?
Well, there's been a lot of debate. It's a golf course that we've not seen in the U.S. Open rotation over the last few years. So it's new. It's a little unknown. It's kind of different. You know, we've seen a lot of these Northeast or Midwestern style golf courses over the last few years, other than Pebble Beach back in 2019. LACC is a little bit different, but just like most U.S. Opens, they're going to make it play challenging, and they're going to try to test every part of the game. So you really have to have everything clicking. I mean, I'm really looking at total driving in terms of off the tee numbers. I don't think it's necessarily going to fit just the bombers, nor do I think just the shorter, accurate types are what you're going to have to have. You're going to have a little bit of both. You need to be at least average length off the tee, and you got to find these fairways, because if you don't, the Bermuda rough looks pretty penal so far. And then, like any U.S. Open, it's going to test you through the bag in terms of your irons. So mid irons, long irons, wedges are all going to be in play at LACC, because and then you're going to miss greens because it's U.S. Open and it's tough. The greens are firm and fast. You're going to hit greens and then they're going to roll off, and you're going to have to chip. You're going to have to get up and down to save your butt, to save a par, to make a birdie on a par 5. So having touch around the greens is going to be crucial. And we're obviously hearing that these greens are already firming up and they're going to be fast. So, being able to make those 6, 7, 8 footers for par to save from getting a bogey, or making them for bogey to keep from making a double, is going to be crucial. LACC is going to present a unique challenge. It's not like a typical California golf course. It's Bermuda grass. We talked to a player the other day, and he said, man, this course actually reminds me of Florida golf, with the Bermuda fairways and rough and the bent grass greens and the sand. He compared to kind of Florida beach sand in the bunkers. So there's parts of it that are not really all that California, even though it sits in the middle of Los Angeles. It's going to be a really cool golf course to watch, but it is going to test these players. And normally when you test the best players in the world at a U.S. Open setup, the best players tend to rise to the top.
Before picks, your calls, long shots, favorites, all that, I want to ask you from just a broad betting perspective, when you look at betting golf tournaments or majors like this U.S. Open, how much you're looking at past tournament success, major success for these golfers, and also just, the current landscape with PGA versus Live and them merging together, if the dynamic that creates for this big tournament here.
Yeah, I mean, that news shocked everyone last week. We could talk about that for a long time. I think there's still a lot of unknowns, and I do think that the major championship gives us somewhat of a pause in some of that conversation, as everyone's just focused on seeing a great golf course and seeing a great major championship being played.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to unpack there and still a lot to learn. In terms of handicapping a major like this, every major is somewhat different, except for what we know about Augusta National, right? But, we're going to change the golf course with every major every year. Sometimes it'll be golf courses we've seen before. Sometimes, like this year, it'll be golf courses we haven't seen before. And when that happens, that's going to add another level of variance into handicapping it. And golf is already a pretty highly variant sport to handicap. The major championships that play difficult, like most U.S. Opens, most PGA championships, add even another layer of variance, because here's the thing that people need to understand. The best golfers, you're gonna tune in tomorrow or Friday towards, as we approach the cut. There's 156 golfers here. Only the top 60 in ties make the weekend. There are going to be big names that miss the cut. Yeah. Big names. When you have a golf course that plays this difficult, that has so many spots on it that'll really kill your round if you find yourself in one. If you get one bad break, if you get one bad lie, if you get one jumper out of the rough, if you get one tough lie in the sand, it can mean the difference between you playing the weekend or not. It will happen. There will be a lot of variance here. However, as the 4 rounds progress and the tournament unfolds, you typically see, again, the best players rise to the top. In the last 10 years, we've only seen one player at 50 to 1 or longer win the U.S. Open. That was Gary Woodland in 2019. So you're looking at guys 50 to 1 or shorter, which I know probably sounds like a super big number to like NFL and NBA bettors, but 50 to 1, 40 to 1, 30 to 1, that's kind of like the mid-range in terms of golf betting.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about back to the NBA bets just made a few nights ago. I'm like, this is amazing right now. Look at those odds here.
Yeah. It's different with golf. It's different. It's the most variable sport in the world. The best players don't win every week.
Yeah, it's so wide open.
Well, let me ask you this, David. I mean, Scottie Scheffler being the favorite right now on the books here. I mean, this is a guy who's made every cut. We're talking about multiple double-digit top 10 finishes here. I mean, what are your expectations for Scheffler? Do you think as the favorite he will come through? Or maybe is the strategy, if we're looking to bet Scheffler, maybe for a top 10 or a top 5 finish with better odds?
So Scheffler's gotten a lot of chatter this week, and it's around two things. Number one, what he's doing tee to green with his ball striking is approaching Tiger Woods levels in the last like 10 tournaments or so, which is insane to think about. But his putter is terrible. He has had a really rough time converting. He's getting to the green. He's just not putting the ball in the hole. The putter is cold. It is ice cold, which does raise some eyebrows here at LACC. So that's causing a lot of trepidation in the Twitter world, in the golf betting world right now. I think personally, the better, if you're going to bet a short number, and I say short number in golf, if you're going to bet a short number, I think Brooks Koepka and Jon Rahm at around, I think you can get both of them around 10 or 11 to 1. I would rather have a little extra juice than the Scottie Scheffler pick. I like Rahm and Koepka right up there up top. Obviously, we know what both of those guys are doing. Koepka's a major killer. He's a 2-time U.S. Open winner. He just won the PGA. Rahm just won the Masters. So, I mean, both of those guys are obviously just as talented as Scottie Scheffler. They're just maybe not, Brooks is playing live, so we don't quite get to see the heater between major golf tournaments like we do with Rahm and Scheffler. But I like both of those guys.
Yeah, Koepka's on a heater for sure, and coming off that PGA Championship win and impressive showing at the Masters you mentioned. Yeah. So at the top it is Scheffler, Rahm, and Koepka with the shortest odds. But Rory McIlroy, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland will even throw in that top tier. Any of these other top guys that you're looking to win it all that you like besides Koepka, Rahm you mentioned?
Yeah, for me, I would go Koepka, Rahm, and then I go to Victor Hovland at around 16, 17, 18 to 1 maybe on some books. He shortened a little bit. He opened around 22 to 1 or so on Monday. Victor has seemingly leveled up his game over the recent months. He's never won a major, but he's contended in the last few. He's come very close. He was close at the Open Championship last year. He was in the mix at the PGA. He just won the Memorial, which kind of played like a major and was a difficult test. He's playing fantastic. The worry about Victor Hovland has always been his scrambling ability, but it seems like he's improved that. He just got a new coach, a new short game coach that I think has helped him out a lot. So I go to Hovland, and then I jump to like the 30 to 1, 40, 50 to 1 range. That's kind of how I'm structuring the outright card.
What about, David, when we're looking at something like top 10 and maybe looking for a long shot who could find their way in the top 10, especially if some of these bigger sharks are going to be missing the cut here? Let's just say, like you said, especially with the crazy greens that they have here, are there any golfers with odds that stand out to you that gives us a little bit more wiggle room with a top 10 finish potential?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day on Sunday, you are very likely going to find a player that kind of seemingly to you would come out of nowhere and land up in the top 10. So it's going to happen. I like the question. I'll give you a bomb. At 14 to 1, you can get a guy named Sepp Straka. He's Austrian, but he lives in Sea Island, Georgia, plays on southeastern Bermuda golf courses, seaside Bermuda golf courses all the time. He played at University of Georgia, go Dogs, which is the best college golf program in the country. And he's a winner on the PGA Tour. He's contended in majors. He loves difficult golf courses. Top 10, he is 14 to 1. That would be just one bomb, but there's a few others that I wouldn't mind either.
Okay. Well, yeah. So you mentioned you like some, 31, 40 to 1 long shots to win it. Give us a couple of those names that you're looking at, or as you mentioned, just long shots to finish in the top 10 or top 20.
Yeah. So outright, there's a name that so one of the things I like to do is track head-to-head line movement from maybe a sharper market making sports book in terms of golf. And there's one guy who in 3 head-to-head matchups, one was against Cam Smith, one was against Terrell Hatton, and let me find the other one. The other one was against Colin Morikawa. In those 3 head-to-head matchups, he opened as a dog, and now he is a favorite. So someone or a group of people pounded Matthew Fitzpatrick, who would be a repeat U.S. Open winner because he is your defending U.S. Open champion from last year at Brookline. But Matthew Fitzpatrick is still around 30 to maybe 35 to 1 on some books. I know he was 35 to 1 yesterday when I finalized my card on DraftKings. There's a group of big-time head-to-head bettors that really like Fitzpatrick, and he does set up well here, and he has played well recently. He is a defending U.S. Open champion, which may be the only reason people wouldn't bet him because very rarely do we see back-to-back, but Brooks Koepka did it just a few years ago. So Matt Fitzpatrick is a name that I've definitely been on. And then Tommy Fleetwood and Jason Day, 2 names at 50 to 1 on DraftKings the last time I looked. Both of those guys playing extremely well right now. No holes in the boat for Tommy Fleetwood. He's doing everything well, tee to green and putting well. He's never won a major and he's never won on the PGA Tour, but neither had Matthew Fitzpatrick when he won for the first time last year at the U.S. Open. I could see Tommy Fleetwood doing the same thing. And Jason Day's just got an incredible short game, which will bail him out in tough situations here at LA Country Club. And he's driving the ball great. So, he's having a resurgent year. So to see Jason Day win another major, I think I could see that happening too at 50 to 1. It feels like a good value.
David, looking at the other side of things here, of the top end golfers, the higher end golfers that you could potentially bet on to win or to even have a top 10 finish, what golfers are you not betting on? What golfers do you want absolutely nothing to do with based on the course, based on how they've been performing lately? What golfers do you think that maybe some of the general public will be looking to bet on that you're saying no way to?
Well, dude, Fancy, you asked a very difficult question because it's a major championship, which, like I said, best players tend to rise. And the guys at those numbers are all exceptionally good golfers and playing extremely well. It's very tough to do. Scotty is one I will likely have zero exposure to because of it's mainly more of a value thing. The putter worries me a little bit, but it's more of a value. I just think, if I want to bet Scotty top 5 or top 10, if I don't want him to win, like I still might as well bet John Rahm or Brooks Koepka to do the same thing if I like both those guys basically the same. So I'm getting a better number there. I'll probably leave Scotty Scheffler alone. Patrick Cantlay worries me a little bit. He would be one that I'm probably gonna stay away from. He checks a lot of boxes statistically, so if you're running models and stuff, he's gonna obviously do very well. He's yet to have a top 5 finish in a major. He has been playing better in majors lately, but there's something about Cantlay. I think sometimes he's a little too aggressive in major championships, and sometimes what Brooks Koepka does really well is he's very conservative, and he doesn't make big numbers, and he takes his opportunities when they come. I've kind of seen Cantlay force it at times. So for me, it might be Scheffler and it might be Cantlay there as names I'm probably going to avoid.
Again, we got David Barnett here from the Tour Junkies. Appreciate him joining us to talk some U.S. Open here. Question coming in from our chat here. If we shift gears just a little bit, I'm right on YouTube saying he's locked in on Phil. A big weekend for him in honor of the Live. I'm looking at the odds here for Phil Mickelson here. 250 to 1 to win it all. 16 to 1 to finish in the top 20 or top 10 there. Are you taking a shot on Phil here with all the Live PGA drama?
I will say this. I just placed a bet on him to finish top 40. I think it was plus 180 was the best number I got on him at FanDuel. I can see Phil, kind of effing some stuff up around here, this week. Like he is the U.S. Open shy. He's a U.S. Open win shy from completing the career Grand Slam. He's never really had a great track record at U.S. Opens, but Phil's a Cali guy. This is a slightly different setup than a lot of U.S. Opens. So those two things I think work in his favor, and at Tour Junkies, like we've been preaching the Live thing since it started, like saying, hey, yes, these guys are playing some golf courses on Liv's rotation that are a little suspect. Yes, maybe it's not quite as deep, but like these guys are still really good at golf. So like we've not been a group fading Live players in majors. Now everybody's kind of woke up to it because of what Brooks has done and what Phil did at Augusta, and what Patrick Reed's been doing, what Bryson did at the PGA. Now everybody's kind of waking up to it. I do think these guys are still playing with somewhat of a chip on their shoulder, and they want to come and come to a major and show they still got it. So I think Phil could be live. This golf course does offer a little bit of wiggle room off the tee, which is usually Phil's issue. He tends to hit the driver too wayward at times. We know that his short game is incredible. That's going to matter for sure. So it gives him a little room off the tee. And it does require some creativity, and it's got some Augusta vibes. There's a lot of players who have talked about a lot of the slopes in the fairways, and you never have a flat lie, and the golf course moves a lot. You kind of have to play the golf course with the ground and how it moves. I mean, Augusta is a place that Phil has dominated. So there's some resemblance there and maybe some reason to back him. 250 to 1. I mean, why not? You won't have to spend much to make it worth your while. So, I can see it.
I just had a vision of, Sunday comes and Phil's in the top 5 and he's got his shades on, strutting around as he's sinking birdies. I could see it happening.
And maybe at that point, if you have the outright on him, you can either maybe cash out for a nice cash out option, or you can hedge, whatever you need to do. But I don't know. It would depend on who he's up against.
Yeah.
Last question for me, David, and that's Bryson DeChambeau. Couple of top 10 finishes lately here. Was just checking out his odds when it comes to winning or placing in the top 10, plus 360 and plus 850 on DraftKings in the top 5. Any interest regarding how good he's played recently, potentially betting those odds for either prop?
So I will say, Fincy, I started the week pretty up on Bryson. And he talked about him on our show, talked about him in terms of betting. The more and more I've thought about it, the more I've heard about this golf course, the less interested I am. Somewhat due to these Augusta comparisons that I just gave you. Bryson's never been able to kind of handle Augusta. I think some of it is some of the reasons why Phil has dominated Augusta. Bryson struggles to be creative. Like he's so mathematical, and he's so methodical, and he's so like, do this, do that. He struggles at times to be creative. I think he struggles with the uneven lies. And maybe it's because he swings single length irons, which I think is still ridiculous. He's the only person in professional golf that does that. So it does worry me a little bit. Now, Bryson's a California kid. Maybe he'll feel comfortable, something like that. But I think I'm actually starting to fade Bryson in most areas. Now, there's probably some names in that same ballpark in terms of odds that I would probably much prefer.
We got Matt Deutsch chiming in on YouTube here saying David Barnett, the Tour Junkies, making golf fun for me. So give us last question here. We're going to end on a high note. Give us a fun prop bet that you're riding. You gave us a couple long shots already, but what's kind of something that you're just kind of throwing out? Why not take a chance on it to enjoy watching the U.S. Open?
So I'll try to squeeze in a couple here. There's a nationality prop on FanDuel, top South American. And there's 6 guys in the pool, but there's really only 3. There's Mito Pereira and Joaquin Niemann, who are both very talented players. Both are on Live. Mito has played well in the last couple of majors. Joaquin Niemann has not. Mito's a stud. I like him a lot. Okay. The third player is Emiliano Grillo, who is a full-time PGA Tour player. He's a ball-striking machine, and he just won at Colonial 2 weeks ago for the second time ever on the PGA Tour and the first time in 8 years. Emiliano Grillo is a very good ball striker. He will keep himself out of trouble. He's not a very good putter, but he's been putting better lately. He's plus 460 to come out on top as the top South American in that group. Considering the other 3 guys, I think, are basically nothing. Niemann is playing like trash. I feel like all he's got to do is beat Mito. So I kind of look at it as a head-to-head against Mito at plus 460. I think that's a really good value. And then I've got a few bombs first-round leader if you want to have some Thursday action. You got time for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I don't normally bet first-round leaders because I will go ahead and say it is a very negative EV bet. But if I'm going to take advantage of a weather situation or I'm going to take guys early out in the morning, because early out in the morning is the freshest the golf course is going to be. It's the most receptive. The greens will be all day. It'll be the most optimal for scoring. So the names I'll give you are all early in the morning. And then I usually take bombs, because first round leaders usually tie. So you have dead heat rules that apply, which means the books are going to chop your bet. So I go big, or I just don't bet him at all. Shane Lowry is at 65-1 on FanDuel. He's an exceptional player. He goes out early. That is I thought Shane's number would be about a 40-1, and he's 65-1. I think that's just a misprice. Sepp Straka, who I've already talked about, is plus. He's 110-1. He's early in the morning. Patrick Rogers is 120-1. He's early in the morning. He's got a good U.S. Open track record. All three of those guys are some bomb first-round leaders that all go out early and could put up a number, and it would be hard for the afternoon guys to catch them unless somebody gets really hot.
Awesome stuff, David. I've been trying to take some mental notes, but I know I have to listen and watch this back to make sure I lock in all these bets. I know
I've been grabbing my pen from time to time and writing names down next to the questions.
Matt Fitzpatrick, Sepp Straka. I mean, these are. I'm always rooting for the underdog. You know, I'm an Eagles fan when they beat the Patriots back in 2017 as big underdogs. So I'm always ready to root for an underdog. David, also, you're not an underdog. You're killing it in the golf game. Again, the Tour Junkies on Twitter at Tour_Junkies, the Tour Junkies podcast and show on Bettor Sports Network, and all the stuff they got going on Twitter. Him and Pat Perry are killing it for us. Appreciate the time here, David. Awesome having you.
No, thanks, boys. You guys are killing it. Appreciate y'all having me on. Let's run it back for the Open in a couple weeks, too.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
For sure. We'll bring it back on. Yeah. All right. See you guys. Yeah, lock in those golf bets, David. And if you missed anything, I mean, this is going to be living on YouTube and everything. So get these in before the first round starts on Thursday.
I wonder if it's a good strategy, Servo, like in general for tournaments, go for that round one, those first starting golfers. If you've got someone who's decent in the pack, maybe not somebody who's way down there overall, but someone that's been playing decently, they're getting first crack at the course there before it gets all messy and slick and everything, especially if you're going to have slick greens. Maybe that's a strategy we should be looking at in a good amount of tournaments that have a lot of humidity in certain locations.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And David was saying, there's a couple golfers that he's targeting. There's always tournaments where it's like, all right, it might rain later in the day, so target the early golfers, or it might rain in the morning, or it's windy in the morning, so you target the later guys. But those juicy first round leader bets are always interesting. So, Sepp Straka, I'm locking it in. By the way, on Fantasy Alarm right now, you can check out the PGA DFS playbook and the example lineups from our own Drew Phelps. He's always killing it every single week, giving you PGA DFS top plays there, and you can get that with the All Pro playbook from All Pro Access for the playbooks and DFS tools at FantasyAlarm.com. Just use promo code ALARM50 for 50% off your first 6 months. You can get all that for MLB DFS tonight. We were giving you guys plenty of NBA and NHL DFS, but we got other sports starting up. UFC this weekend that we'll have a playbook out for, but get those golf DFS lineups in with Drew Phelps's articles there, and help you cash some DFS lineups as David Barnett's helping you cash some bets. Let's get back to our own bets for tonight's baseball slate. We gave out our best bets already, but we got plenty more player props, team totals, all that. So give us another one that you're high on tonight, Fensty.
Well, let's bridge a player in two different props that we're looking at, Servo, because you and I unveil to each other what we're looking at beforehand, but we don't really give the reaction there. We don't green room each other like that. But I'll say this, with Ben Lively tonight, going back to that Reds-Royals game, seeing what he's done when it comes to longevity, and we've seen him get into the seventh inning a couple of starts ago, nearly made it through 7 in his last start against the Cardinals. And I'm thinking when it comes to Lively against this Royals squad, I'm thinking he's going to hold them down. So with that, I have him lasting it through the 6th inning. So over 17.5 outs. That's a prop that I'm looking at for Ben Lively. I look at 17.5, a decent amount. Again, going up against the Royals, though, very confident that he's going to be able to make it through 6.
Yeah, the 17.5 line is definitely a good spot to target because he can get to 6, and I feel like 6 is always that bench line for managers, to start getting their relievers in if they got guys lined up for 7, 8, and 9 innings. And Lively can get there. And so I'll piggyback right off of that because I like his strikeouts prop. Ben Lively to go over 4.5 strikeouts here. Minus 122 on FanDuel, the minus 130 on DraftKings. I still like that. But you mentioned he goes a little bit deeper. He's got 100 pitches or more in 2 of his last 3 starts, and he's pitched, you mentioned, into the 7th inning or later in 3 of his last 4. 4.5 is a really low line if you look at his game logs, because since entering the Reds rotation in mid-May, he was coming out of the bullpen to start, but since he's been a starter, he's been over this line in all 5 starts, and he's got 8 strikeouts in 3 of those 5 starts. So I see this line just being a touch too low. I mean, maybe Vegas knows something, obviously, but I still think this line is just a strikeout or 2 too low for him. This is a guy that's been, the Reds are letting him go deep, as you mentioned. I mean, and the Cincy bullpen has seen a lot of work. If you just look at their past few games, Luke Weaver and Brandon Williamson both didn't go deep, didn't go past the 5th inning in the past 2 games against this Royals series. So I think they're looking for Lively to eat some innings here. So I like that outs prop that you just mentioned, but I think the strikeouts prop just kind of goes hand in hand because he's going to be going deep. And the Royals, bottom 5, the 5th worst mark in the league in terms of strikeout rate against right-handed pitching this season. So I think this is just a little bit too low for Lively. I like him here.
While we're on the game, and I know that you went after the Reds team total the other night when we were together. Tonight, though, I kind of want to go after the team total. Again, expecting what I'm expecting that I said at the top of the show with Lynch allowing at least 6 hits to the team. I'm thinking that the Reds are going to be scoring some runs. And again, they tee off on lefties. So I like the Reds team total tonight over 4.5. I saw it at minus 135 on DraftKings. Again, if I have to think that they're going to be putting runs up there if he's going to be giving up 6+ hits tonight. So I'm going to go right in step with that and say that the Reds will score at least 5 tonight.
I like that. And that's a prop that has hit for me the last 2 days. I took it yesterday too. You mentioned I took it Monday and it cashed. But the thing with the Reds team total that I like also, and I'm gonna double down on you here because the Royals bullpen is terrible. And this team total has hit for the Reds because they've scored 1 or 2 runs in the later innings, even after Lynch is out of the game. I think they can still get a couple runs across. So I like that team total. They've been on fire ever since Eleuterio Cruz has been up. So I like that too. As long as it's under 5, I think that's a good bet.
Let me ask you this then. I mean, well, let's just keep spiraling down with this matchup here. Now, I got to give our colleague at Fantasy Alarm, Adam Ronis, some props here, pun intended, because he actually opened my eyes on DraftKings Servo to that if you're betting any MLB money line, because DraftKings offers it, you got to opt in. You can win the bet if your team leads by 2 at any point. I just feel like for tonight, that would be a good spot to take the Reds here if you wanted to opt in on that.
Yeah, I do like that actually. I saw that promo and I've been taking advantage of that the last week or so that it's been up there. If we think Lively does his thing and we think Lynch is struggling against this lineup, that kind of like, and it's kind of like a first 5 bet at times too, because you can kind of take the bullpen out of it and not worry about if they end up winning on the money line. So I like that to be up by 2. They could go up 2-0 in the first inning. Who knows? And
it's over. Oh man, a first inning catch. What could be better? It's almost like your NBA player that you bet over 1.5 threes, hitting 2 threes right away. My night's done here. Relax.
You don't have to worry about it. No sweats for us. Yeah. So I like that. I would take a chance on that too.
Yes.
Now we're talking team totals. I like the Red Sox team total over 5.5 5.5 on BetMGM.
I like it, man. I like it.
And this is a bet that as I was locking in, I clicked over to Josh Wagner's best bets article over on Fantasy Alarm, and he's also on the Red Sox tonight. The Red Sox, they've lost the first 2 games of the series against the Rockies. I think this offense, and even though they scored 6 runs yesterday, they still lost that one. I think they get their offense starts clicking again here. At home, they've been, behind the Rangers, they've been one of the best, the second best home offense this season. And against left-handed pitching, they're a top 10 offense with a 336 WOBA. I mentioned they scored 6 runs last night and lost, but I think they're going to pounce on Austin Gomber here. Gomber been terrible, 7.57 ERA, a 6.75 FIP. That's not much better. He's getting hit hard. He just got shelled for 7 runs and 11 hits last time out against the Padres. I know this one isn't in Coors where he has struggled, but I think on the road in Boston, it sometimes plays like Coors. We get a ton of high-scoring games here at Fenway.
The total's at 10 for this game, Servo, and the over's at -115. I'm looking at it right now, and from what you're saying, and of course with Gomber on the hill, I mean, if you're thinking that they're going to score 6 alone, Boston, then maybe betting the over on that is, I mean, the odds aren't bad.
Yeah, I considered that, but then I looked at Garrett Whitlock going for the Red Sox and just has me a little worried. But this is a spot where I did consider the over, but I think just in general, when I look at that game, I'm more confident that the Red Sox offense is going to do their thing. So that's why I just kind of limited to the team total for the Red Sox. But yeah, I think they could do a lot to help in this game getting over. And you mentioned, so the Red Sox are huge favorites. What, minus 240, 230 on the money line, and the total's at 10. So if you're thinking the Red Sox are going to do most of that damage there and be winning, I like the team total here.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you there. And again, that total on DraftKings right now at 10, -115 for the over if you're interested. Can I sell you on a walks prop potentially that I'm looking at? Tyler Glasnow. He's given up a few walks in some of these starts recently. And I got to just say that with the A's right now, I mean, eventually, the party's going to end. But here's the thing with the A's. I was looking this up before. They've actually walked a lot over the last few weeks. I mean, this is a team, you're looking at an OBP with 333, but they're a top 5 team in walks over the last 2+ weeks here. I don't know. I mean, with Glasnow giving up 3 in a few of his starts here, going over 1.5, I kind of like that tonight.
Yeah, that's worth a shot. I mean, the A's have been, they're still plus 230 on the money line tonight. I mean, I'm not going to take it. I mean, because they're going to lose eventually, but who knows? I mean, the Glasnow is also, he's not been since he's returned, he's not been a dominant pitcher, as you said. He's struggled with his command, and I think I don't know the exact numbers, but I think his velocity was down too. So yeah, not too high on Glasnow. So that's why, maybe I would look to the Rays on the run line there to win big, but I don't think, I don't trust Glasnow enough right now. And the A's offense is coming out of nowhere right now. So yeah, I'll take them to go over 1.5 walks. It's a good one. I'm going to go with Clayton Kershaw over 7.5 strikeouts. This is you never like taking these 7.5 strikeout props.
That's
right?
because I'm a wuss and you're not. That's why.
But listen, let me convince you here, because at home, Kershaw's, throughout his career, he's been a stud at home. But this season, he's been really good. 1.45 ERA and 43 strikeouts over 31 innings in his 5 home starts there. I mean, the strikeout rate has been insane at home. And compared to the road, he's been, his strikeouts are way down just comparatively. And it was the same last year. It's been the same the last few years, just as an aging pitcher. But he gets amped for these home starts at Dodger Stadium. He's been over 7.5 strikeouts in 4 of his 5 home starts this season and has 9 strikeouts in each of those 4. So I'm seeing this at 7.5. I know it's high, but I think he can get there. And the White Sox here he's facing, they strike out a ton against left-handed pitching. They have the worst strikeout rate against lefties over the past 2 weeks at 32%. And they're, among the bottom 10 teams in the league overall this season. But lately, they've just been striking out a ton against lefties. I think Kershaw comes in here and just really shows, punches out at least 8. I'm thinking maybe double digits if you want to kind of go the latter route on FanDuel or DraftKings if you get alt strikeout lines too.
Good odds on that, Servo. There you go. 7.5. Hey, look, it hit with the similar odds to Paxton last time. So
I know the plus money is good on DraftKings. I didn't look at it live, but it might be, even juiced differently on FanDuel.
What do you think of this? Marcus Semien over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs, a career 357 hitter against Reed Detmers tonight here, because I'm thinking that these Rangers bats, some of them are going off tonight. And I'm thinking that with Semien, again, I mean, you could look at other props with him, but he has just 1 RBI in that span, but still hitting 357. Let's see him get on base once, score once, boom, we're done.
I can dig that. The Semien, Corey Seager, I mean, a number of Rangers hitters, I've been perfectly fine taking their over hits, runs, RBIs props on DraftKings because, I mean, this offense is just on fire. And it's like every night you see multiple guys going over this prop. So, yeah, I can dig on Semien. He's been really good this year. So, yeah, I can back that. My last pick here before we get to some home run props. Home run calls. I like Cody Clemens over a half a hit. So to get a hit tonight on DraftKings, minus 130. This is a prop I took yesterday and it hit, and I'm going right back there. Roger Clemens' kid, he's doing his thing. The bottom, even in the bottom half of the Phillies lineup, he's still been like a righty killer. He's swinging from the left side. This season against right-handed pitching, he's hitting 278 against righties. Over the past 7 games, he's hitting 318. And get this, so he doesn't start every day, but when he does, because he's in there against right-handed pitchers, he's hit safely in 7 straight games that he started and 13 of his past 16 games that he started. So, yeah, this is like a random player, a hits prop, kind of random, but this has been cashing. I've been doing it, as a Phillies fan, maybe it opened my eyes to him just being always seems to get a hit. Last night he hit a double, against the D-backs. And tonight, he's facing Merrill Kelly, who has been, it's a tough matchup, been solid this year, but his 3.90 expected ERA and 3.74 FIP this season are a lot higher than his 2.92 ERA. I think some regressions coming for him. And the Phillies offense has been on fire. I think Clemens can do a part in that tonight. And I like the over hits prop there.
Yeah, I mean, he's hitting around 300 over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So he continues to hit in games.
He doesn't always get multiple hits per game, but he's been getting at least a hit and more often than not. So yeah, he's just kind of one of those guys.
Perfect betting guy, Servo, because it hasn't been translating really to other stat categories, but at least he's been getting on base. I mean, you would think a guy who's hitting nearly 300 over his last few weeks would have a few runs, just 2 runs during that span. 3 RBIs, 0 home runs, but that's why he's the perfect player prop to bet.
Yeah, and he's been making appearances in the MLB DFS value plays articles up on Fantasy Alarm. If you check those out, because he's been like dirt cheap for DFS, and maybe a hit or two can help you return value and helps you fit in, like a Ohtani or someone else in another spot. So Clemens is kind of flying under the radar. We'll see if he gets another hit tonight, but minus 130. It was minus 145 last night on DraftKings. I still took it, but at minus 130, I'll take that too.
Hell yeah.
By the way, I mentioned the MLB DFS value plays article. If you tune in within 10 minutes here, less than 10 minutes, we got the MLB DFS live show with John Impemba and James Grande coming up next. They're killing it every single day, talking DFS lineup building and all that. So definitely tune into that coming up after us. Let's get to our home run calls here. What do you got, Fensty?
Going to go with Josh Young here, and I'm going to give the assist here if this does happen to our producer, Heavy T, Tyler Soto, because normally I come up with a list of 5. I break it down to 3 to 2. It's like American Idol almost, and I'm Simon. But at the same time, I was looking between Young and Corey Seager. Seager hit one last night, as we know, but Young against lefties has been hitting him over 330. He's been excellent. So Josh Young, I'm going with him to hit a home run tonight. That is my home run dinger daily home run pick.
Daily dinger. Yeah. The Josh Young is another guy like Seager. You mentioned Semien as you had a pick there, who's just like, it seems like their props, home runs or hits, runs, RBIs, total bases. They've been cashing left and right. So not bad there. My home run call is Adley Rutschman for the Orioles, plus 600 on DraftKings. Rutschman, 7 of his 8 homers have come at home this season. He's at home here against the Blue Jays, and 7 of his 8 homers have also come against right-handed pitching, and he's facing Berrios. Jose Berrios got a 4.40 ERA on the road this year, has allowed 7 homers over his last 8 starts, just had some trouble against good offenses here, and the Orioles are sneaky good. And against their, in their careers, Rutschman is 7 for 10 lifetime off of Berrios. with 1 homer in that span. Small sample size, of course, but he's got his number. And I'll bank on Rushman, who's got a 336 average and a 573 slugging percentage at home this season. So he likes hitting the Camden Yards. So I'll take the O's here.
All the O's last night got hits. Most of them, I think, except for 2, had multiple hits.
Yeah,
and we had crazy onslaught.
Yeah, we had some home runs too. So I'm hoping Rushman gets in on the mix tonight and goes yard. Plus 600 is really good.
Yes, when did Aaron Hicks become a thing? Seriously.
Yeah, he just needed to get out of New York, and now he's alive.
Eating crab fries, hitting home runs. What a life!
Ooh, I'm about to go get some crab fries after that. Fensterman, it's always good for you to join me here on the Bettor Sports Betting Show. Appreciate you chiming in here and filling in for Howard.
No, it's been awesome hanging out with you, Servo, these last couple of days. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure next week we're going to have you on to talk some NBA draft. That's coming right around the corner with the NBA Finals now over. So we'll definitely bring you on to talk some Victor Wembanyama and
well, we know where he's going. Where's Scoot going to go, though?
Scoot, Brandon Miller. We got some interesting names. Cam Whitmore.
Yep.
Yeah, some great names. But yeah, we'll have you on probably next week. We'll definitely bring you back.
Nice.
Appreciate everyone tuning in here and watching us give out some betting picks. If you missed it, David Barnett gave out some winners for the U.S. Open. So definitely rewind on YouTube or anywhere else to watch that. Appreciate everyone watching. Good luck.